What if your most, profound moments of clarity, those real spiritual breakthroughs, didn't just happen in a church service or during quiet time,
Mm-hmm.
but right smack in the middle of your everyday life, like maybe in a busy boardroom or, I don't know, your kitchen, or even just pushing a cart down the grocery store aisle?
Right.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into something really powerful, an ancient truth called the everywhere kingdom and what's known as the incarnational tradition.
Yeah, and it tackles this thing that, well, for centuries, many of us have kind of quietly lived with. It's this pervasive, subtle idea, this lie, really.
It just,
The sacred versus secular divide.
Mhm.
It's this unspoken assumption that God is present and active, maybe on Sundays or in specific religious moments.
Sure, prayer, church.
Exactly. But then Monday through Saturday, that's kind of seen as your arena, your emails, your commute, washing dishes. That's just life,
All right.
separate from anything truly deeply spiritual.
And the cost of thinking like that, it's huge, isn't it? It leaves us feeling kind of fragmented, always battling this creeping exhaustion.
Mm-hmm.
Our work, even if it feels meaningful sometimes, can start to feel like, well, just a job, not a calling.
Yeah, you lose that sense of purpose.
You do.
Yeah.
And you miss out on feeling God's presence in the totally ordinary stuff.
Mm,
And honestly, it often leads to living this sort of spiritual double life.
totally. You wear one hat for your faith community, another for your project deadlines.
It's like we've, unintentionally built this massive wall right down the middle of our lives.
And what's really interesting is that this split, this sort of two-story universe idea where, formal religious things are way up here and everyday life is down below, less important,
Right.
that actually wasn't native to the original message of the gospel. It kind of subtly crept in much later, influenced a lot by early Greek philosophy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that worldview often saw the material, the everyday world, as somehow inferior to a true spiritual realm. So the message slowly shifted to God's presence is strongest in these designated religious spaces.
Which makes everything else seem, what, like a distraction?
At best, a distraction, yeah, or at worst, just completely irrelevant to your spiritual life.
Okay, so if this isn't how it was supposed to be, then how do we start, dismantling those walls in our own thinking and our own lives?
Well, that's exactly what we want to dig into today. That's the mission here, to kind of unravel this great deception, as some call it,
Okay.
and rediscover this radical but really ancient truth that just shatters those false distinctions and hopefully leads us back towards a life of wholeness where every moment has the potential to be holy ground.
So what's the key? What's the core truth that blows this whole sacred secular thing apart?
It's the incarnation itself, full stop.
Okay, unpack that.
We're talking about the staggering reality, John 1.14. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. That's not just some abstract theological point. It's a cosmic declaration. Think about it. God didn't just send instructions from heaven.
No.
He became human. He moved into the neighborhoods. Like the master architect didn't just design the building. He showed up on the construction site, picked up a hammer, lived among the dust and the noise.
Wow, okay, that image helps. God actually in the mess.
Exactly. God fully entering our messy material world, not just observing it from a distance. He didn't stay neatly tucked away in some sacred box
Right.
or show up as some, ethereal, untouchable figure. He stepped right into our dust, our sweat, our family dinners, our workplaces. He came as a carpenter, a
Right.
tradesman.
Yeah, working with his hands.
That fact alone, it just fundamentally reshapes how we should understand God's presence. It demolishes the myth that holiness is only found in explicitly religious activities.
And when you look at Jesus' life, it just shouts this truth, doesn't it? He spent most of his earthly years just doing what? Shaping wood, fixing things. The ordinary, sometimes gritty work of a craftsman.
Mm-hmm. 30 years of it, tradition holds.
Right. And then his public ministry, it wasn't confined to the temple courts either. He healed people on roadsides. He taught from fishing boats. He shared meals with, everyone. Sinners, tax collectors.
Yeah, the first miracle. Turning water into wine at a wedding party. A social gathering.
It's such a powerful demonstration, isn't it? That holiness isn't just for quiet contemplation. It thrives right there in the middle of the noisy marketplace. The joy of a celebration, the everyday grind.
And if God, in the person of Jesus, embraced such an ordinary, tactile human existence, then no corner of our lives can possibly be off limits to his presence. The Incarnation is basically God's definitive statement that heaven and earth were never meant to be ripped apart.
Okay.
And there's no task, no place, no conversation that's somehow incapable of being holy ground.
That really does reframe everything, doesn't it? about where we expect God to show up. It sounds almost like the Bible itself has been pushing back against this sacred-secular split all along. Is that what you mean by an everywhere kingdom?
That's exactly it. When you look at the big story, the whole sweep of Scripture, you see this consistent refusal to box God into just religious spaces.
Where does that start?
Right at the very beginning, Genesis. Think about the creation story. The first job given to humans, tend a garden.
Right, Adam and Eve in Eden.
Yeah, that creation mandate shows that work, creativity, cultivation, even something as basic as gardening, was designed from the start as a sacred act, a way of reflecting the Creator. And this was long before any temple or church building existed.
Okay, so work itself was originally worship.
In a sense, yes, bearing God's image through creative stewardship. And even later, think about the tabernacle in the Old Testament. Yeah, God's dwelling place wasn't a remote temple initially. It was a tent pitched right in the middle of the Israelite camp. Among their everyday lives, their cooking fires, their family tents, it was a portable presence, always moving with them.
Huh. Almost like a foreshadowing.
Exactly, foreshadowing Jesus, God with us, right where we live.
And then, like you said, when Jesus arrived, his ministry was literally everywhere. Miracles weren't just in synagogues.
Nope. Marketplaces, people's homes, dusty roadsides. He was constantly sanctifying these ordinary, messy places just by his presence.
And the endgame vision, Revelation.
Yeah, the climax of the story in Revelation isn't about us escaping a doomed earth to float off to some distant ethereal heaven.
It's not.
No, it's the opposite. It's heaven descending to earth. It's God's kingdom fully integrating with a renewed creation. It's this incredible picture of ultimate wholeness, completely dismantling that two-story universe idea.
Wow. Okay, so what does that mean for us, like, right now, today?
It means God's kingdom isn't just some faraway place we hope to get to when we die. It's already breaking into every here and now. Already, but not yet fully. It's breaking into every dimension of our lives. Our work, our politics, our art, our families, our environment. It's not just a future destination. It's a present, invading reality we get to participate in.
Okay, so if the king is everywhere and the kingdom is breaking in right now, how do we actually live like that? How do we reclaim that wholeness you mentioned, that seamless integration where life isn't split down the middle?
Yeah, because the psalmist says the earth is the Lord's and everything in it, right? So one of the most powerful ways, I think, is to start seeing your daily work as worship.
Okay, work as worship. How?
Well, Paul writes in Colossians, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord. And that's not just like a nice metaphor. No. It means your spreadsheets, your patient care, your sales calls, your coding, fixing a leaky faucet, preparing a meal. It can all be kingdom work when it's done with intention, with excellence, and offered to Christ.
So it's about the how and the why.
Exactly. Think about the Moravians back in the 18th century. These were craftsmen, weavers, potters.
Okay.
They literally saw their workshops as chapels. Their tools were instruments of worship. They pursued excellence in their craft, not just for profit, but as an act of devotion, honoring God in every stitch, every piece of pottery.
That's a really profound shift. It means we can stop mentally dividing our days into God time over here and me time or work time over there.
Right. It invites us to cultivate presence over just performance. Prayer becomes less about a specific place or a rigid schedule and more about a posture of the heart, an ongoing conversation that permeates everything.
So you can actually pray while changing diapers.
Yeah.
Or drafting a business proposal.
Absolutely. Or sipping coffee with a friend. It's about being aware of God with you in the midst of it.
Jesus seemed to model that, didn't he? His life was incredibly full, but somehow not frantic.
That's a great way to put it. Full but unhurried. He strategically withdrew to pray, yes, but he also lingered at meals. He let himself be interrupted. He was present to the person right in front of him. There's that great quote from Dallas Willard, "Hurry is the great enemy of spiritual life in our day."
Oof. Yeah, that hits home.
An incarnational pace flows from trusting that the kingdom advances not just because we're busy, but because God is at work in and through us. We learn to work from a place of rest, not constantly for rest.
And this idea, if the kingdom is everywhere, it must change how we see people too, right?
Totally. If God is present in every sphere, then every single person you meet, you interact with, they become sacred ground.
Not just contacts or customers.
Exactly. They're image bearers. Conversations aren't just social transactions. They become these potential holy opportunities. You're literally looking into the eyes of someone made in God's image, someone he loves.
Taking a wider view then, what about the physical world? Our stuff, the environment?
Great question. It means actively redeeming and cultivating the material world too. Paul says in Romans 8 that creation itself is groaning, waiting for renewal, not just to be discarded.
So caring for the environment.
Is kingdom work, designing beautiful and functional spaces, stewarding resources wisely, creating art. These aren't just side hobbies. They're part of aligning ourselves with God's restorative work. Beauty isn't just decoration. It's a declaration of God's goodness, his nature. It pushes back against a purely utilitarian view of things.
Like a little echo of Eden, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Echoing Eden and pointing towards the new creation.
And what about time itself? How does this perspective change our relationship with, say, our schedules?
Well, stewardship of time shifts. You see it less as a commodity to be ruthlessly managed or sold and more as a sacred trust, a gift.
Okay.
And that ancient practice of Sabbath, it becomes absolutely crucial. It's this radical countercultural declaration against the idol of endless productivity that just grips our society.
It's more than just a day off then.
Oh, much more. It's rooted in God's own rest after creation. It's a gift of liberation, a rhythm designed to make our work more fruitful, ironically, because we learn to work from rest. It trains our hearts away from anxious striving towards worshipful living.
Okay, this whole idea, God everywhere, every moment, potentially holy, it feels like it has some really disruptive implications. In a good way.
Oh, definitely. Beautifully disruptive.
Like it completely dismantles that false hierarchy we sometimes have in our heads, right?
Yeah.
The one that says being a pastor or a missionary is somehow holier than being a teacher or an engineer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It shatters that. The school teacher shaping young minds, the software engineer building useful tools, the nurse caring for the sick, the artist creating beauty, the stay-at-home parent nurturing a family.
Yeah.
They can all walk just as fully in ministry as the person ordained or commissioned for overseas work. It dignifies every legitimate vocation with eternal significance. Your calling is right where God has placed you.
That's huge. And what about, say, evangelism? How does this change how we think about sharing our faith?
That's another fascinating shift. If God's kingdom, his presence, is already everywhere, then our role isn't so much about trying to import God into spaces where we think he isn't.
It's like dragging him into the office.
Sort of, yeah. Instead, it becomes more about unveiling him where he already is, pointing him out. It shifts the focus of witness towards simply embodying Christ's presence, his love, his character, in our ordinary, everyday lives.
Like living invitations.
Exactly. Like Paul said in Athens, quoting their own poets, he is not far from any one of us, for in him we live and move and have our being. We just help people recognize the reality that's already surrounding them.
Okay, but like with any really powerful truth, there must be ways this can get distorted, right? Are there traps we need to watch out for?
Yeah, definitely. Two subtle ones come to mind. The first is compartmentalization, which we've kind of touched on already.
The split.
Yeah, it's shrinking God's presence back into these neat little boxes, even if they have spiritual labels. Like, okay, this is my Sunday faith box, and this over here is my Monday morning strategy box. You're still dividing your life, just maybe more subtly.
Still building walls.
Still building walls. And the second trap is kind of the opposite. Over-spiritualizing.
What do you mean by that?
It's constantly trying to read divine meaning into absolutely everything. Like every flat tire is a message from God, every delayed email is a test of faith. It can actually create a lot of anxiety rather than peace, trying to decode every mundane event.
Yeah, I can see that. Like spiritual paranoia.
Right. The key, I think, is what you might call authentic integration. It's about living as one consistent person, letting your deepest values, your relationship with Christ, organically shape your choices and attitudes without having to artificially force it or strain to make everything sound spiritual.
Just being yourself,
What?
authentically following Christ in all areas.
Exactly. Jesus modeled this, didn't he? He was profoundly aware of his Father, yet he wasn't constantly straining to turn every single conversation into a sermon. He just was the kingdom among them. His presence spoke volumes.
Okay, so how do we actually start walking this out practically? What are some first steps someone listening could take to move towards this kind of wholeness?
Great question. It starts small. First, Maybe just reframe your story each morning.
No.
Consciously reject that sacred secular split when you wake up. Just say to yourself, God is Lord of this whole day. And then actively invite Christ to rule your schedule, your meetings, your commute, your errands, all of it.
Okay, a daily intention.
Yeah. Then practice the presence, like that old monk, Brother Lawrence, who found God while scrubbing pots.
Right, in the kitchen.
Yeah. Try to cultivate just a habitual sense of God being with you. Maybe use simple breath prayers, short phrases, or verses repeated gently throughout the day just to anchor your awareness back in Him. It's less about doing for God and more about being with God.
I like that, being with God. What else?
Honor the ordinary. This is a big one. Try treating each task, no matter how small or mundane, folding laundry, answering emails, waiting in line as if Jesus himself asked you to do it. It really elevates the everyday.
It changes your attitude toward chores, maybe.
It can. And then bless your sphere. Actively, intentionally pray for the people and places you encounter daily. Your colleagues, the cashier, your neighbors. Remember their image bearers. See your interactions as chances to put a little bit of light, a little bit of God's presence.
Wow.
And finally, celebrate creation. Don't see the good things in life as distractions from God. See them as gifts from God that reveal Him. Take genuine joy in a good meal, in nature, in art, in relationships. Savoring that delicious coffee, that's tasting the Creator's generosity.
So really practical, small shifts in perspective and action.
Exactly. And to make it even more concrete, some people find tools helpful, like a vocation map. It's basically a way to visually connect your unique gifts and skills, your deep passions, and the needs you see in the world around you. Where those three overlap, especially within the context of God's kingdom purposes, that's often where your specific calling lies. It helps you see how your work fits into God's big picture.
Like seeing how an engineer's coding really is building something for God's kingdom.
Precisely. And for finding that healthy rhythm we talked about, a Sabbath rhythm planner can be useful.
How does that work?
It's often structured around three simple actions. Cease intentionally stopping your labor, your striving, your worrying. Rest, allowing your body and soul to recharge. And worship, reorienting your heart towards God, remembering who He is and who you are in Him. It's about training your heart to live from abundance, not anxiety.
Cease, rest, worship. Simple but powerful.
Yeah. And lastly, especially for families or even individuals, creating a simple household rule of life.
A rule of life.
Yeah.
Sounds intense.
It doesn't have to be. Think of it more like a trellis for spiritual growth in your home. It's just a simple, shared framework for intentionality around things like prayer, work, and rest patterns, how you handle relationships, how you steward your money and resources. It helps make your home a place where Christ's life can really flourish naturally.
So lots of ways to start putting this into practice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, hearing all this, it makes me think there really is no such thing as God's time over here and real life over there. It's just all life lived in God.
That's it.
Your Monday morning commute, even stuck in traffic.
Mm-hmm.
It could be just as sacred, potentially, as Sunday morning worship. The King really is everywhere.
The wall has fallen. The rooms are one.
Yeah.
So the question we should be asking isn't, is this task I'm doing spiritual?
What's the better question?
The question becomes, will I do this with Christ, in Christ, and for Christ?
Ah.
And when the answer to that is yes, even implicitly, well, then your workshop becomes a chapel, your labor becomes a liturgy, your whole life becomes a dwelling place for God.
Wow. Okay, so as we wrap up, maybe the invitation for everyone listening is just to reflect on that this week. Where can you start to embody this everywhere kingdom in your own daily life?
Yeah. Where can you begin to see His presence already at work, maybe just waiting for you to notice, to unveil Him?